So first, I kind of want to know, how did you first come across the story of the Dead Children's Playground?
So yeah, but I came across the idea before I was even really too deep into my writing career. I think I was procrastinating, and I came across an article called "The Scariest Urban Legend from Each State." And of course, Alabama's legend was the Dead Children's Playground. And as I'm reading this article, I got an idea for basically a series of books where I would basically write a fictional story about each one of these legends from all around the country. And this one, the Dead Children's Playground, something about it just stuck out to me. And I knew it was going to be one of the first ones, if not the first one in the series I did. And it ended up being the first one.
So that was kind of going to be my follow-up question. What about the story, and you had mentioned it a little bit while we were emailing back and forth, that you just kind of couldn't get this specific story out of your head. So what about the story made it compelling? And I have to write a story about this. I have to take this and turn it into a, what about the story kind of just stuck with you?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, as an author, and especially for someone like me who specializes in horror, I like to write about the things that scare me, and there's really nothing scarier than the concept of having a child that passes away, and dealing with that grief and that that tragic loss. And it's just something about it, and something about the idea of the spirits of the children being able to play somewhere after they're no longer here on Earth. It's just something about it. Just like I said, as a parent and as someone who enjoys horror and things that actually scare you, there was so much there to mine and to make a story out of. And I think because it scared me, I think that's why it was such a compelling topic to write about.
Oh, very cool. So obviously, writing this book had to have a little bit of research. Tell me, how much research did you actually have to do? Because you're not based locally. You're obviously from New Jersey. So how much research did you do about the local area?
Yeah, I did a fair amount of research, and actually I wrote in the afterword of the book, kind of where that research came from and how I developed the story. And a lot of it was available online. There was a couple specific articles, one from AL.com and another one from a site called Faxology. And there were little snippets here or there, different forums, different social media posts, some YouTube videos, things I found. But those kind of stories basically told us about, the cemetery and the legend of the playground, and how the swings come alive at night, and you can hear the laughter and chills and see the orbs and things like that. I also there were some other things that came in that were maybe not totally I couldn't vet, like the concept of a serial killer in the 1960s. One of the articles mentioned that, but there was really nothing else about it. But still, it's something you can incorporate because it is a fictional tale based on reality. And there was another thing about a crypt containing a rocking chair that seemed to move on its own, and that was another thing I was able to incorporate. And obviously, the Spanish flu and the rhyme that parents would teach their kids to tell them to keep their windows closed, about the little bird named Enza, which became a big part of the story. So it was a lot of internet sources. I also, after I wrote the story, being that I'm not from the area and I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to visit to do any type of extensive research, I do have some readers I know that are based locally, so I did send them the book ahead of time just to make sure I didn't. There's always creative liberties you're going to take with a fictional story, but I wanted to make sure I didn't stray too far from the reality of the area and of the legends. So I did send it to a beta reader from the area who kind of gave me some tips about how to make it more authentic.
There were, and I'm familiar with a couple of the things you mentioned. The serial killer, I did ask, because I had never heard of that one before, so I did ask a local historian, and that's just a well-known urban legend. So it is, in fact, just an urban legend. But then the chair, That's kind of legend, kind of fact. There is, in fact, a crypt in Maple Hill Cemetery. And allegedly there is the ghost of a woman in the crypt that does allegedly sit in the chair. But it's kind of different. She actually died just prior to her wedding. Or just after, I can't remember all of a sudden. But she was, I think, buried in her wedding dress and now sits in the chair that is, in fact, in the crypt. Now, the crypt is in a completely different part of Maple Hill Cemetery. Maple Hill Cemetery is massive. But it was kind of interesting reading the book, kind of picking apart these different things from different stories that have been around Huntsville. So that was part that I really enjoyed. Part of the plot involves the Three Caves. Did you pull that from the Three Caves Park here in Huntsville, or was that just completely fictional and it's an odd coincidence that there is actually a Three Caves Park here in Huntsville?
No, I did find that in my research of the area, because after researching the story itself, the legend, and the ghost stories, I did want to make sure I got some fairly accurate information about the area, and I did take a little bit of creative liberty with the location of the cave. I know it's further away than it may appear in the story, although I don't totally specify it, but it was an interesting landmark, and I thought it could be a cool visual and a cool moment in the story where the main characters are being hunted by the antagonists. So I thought that was a cool thing to work in, and being local. Like what I try to do is, even though these might not all be in exactly close proximity, all these little details that I learned about the area and different legends, I wanted to incorporate as much as I could into the story itself. So, people from the area could actually see something like, okay, even if it's not exactly what I know about it, I know enough that I recognize it, and it gives those little Easter eggs and that little extra flavor, because it was important for me to give people from the area something to at least recognize.
So we also talked about in our emails that you did change the names of a couple of different things. For example, there's in the book, it's Big Al's Deli. Now there is a deli in downtown Huntsville, but it's a Jimmy John's. Or you mentioned the church. There is a church in downtown Huntsville, but you changed the name. Why did you change some of the names?
Well, because I didn't think, due to the nature of the story, especially with schools, that was important when you're dealing with ghosts of children and children being in peril and deceased. The last thing I wanted to do was use actual real school names, and I just didn't think that was appropriate. And obviously, if you're writing a fictional story, you don't want to put things in with businesses and locations where it may cause some type of, I'm trying to think of the words, it may cause some type of negative thoughts about it, or, because obviously with a horror story, there's obviously things like, death and ghosts and violence to a certain extent that, you just don't want to associate with real businesses that may be affected by it.
Right, that makes sense. There were a couple of the changes that honestly gave me a chuckle. Huntsville Community College gave me a chuckle because there's no Huntsville Community College.
Right.
But then the one that really did me in, and I don't know where you would have found this in research, but at the beginning of the book, Kayla and Kylie are kind of hinting at they think their parents are having financial problems, and they're alluding to the fact that their house is now older, and the backyard was much smaller than their previous house in Florida. And that one gave me a good chuckle because it's also made very clear that they live walking distance to Maple Hill Cemetery. It's funny because in reality, it is a 2-story house in walking distance to Maple Hill Cemetery. That is one of the richest areas in Huntsville to live. You probably won't find a 2-story house for sale over by Maple Hill Cemetery for less than $750,000. So that one actually gave me a really good chuckle, and I don't know if a lot of people would pick up on that, but I'm familiar with that end of town. So
Right.
I don't know, fun little fact that I guess you can do with whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because even in a lot of my books take place in New Jersey, where I'm from, and sometimes you just do have to change certain things up because it works better with the story. And I think that added element of family drama and financial problems, it does add a little bit more to the characters and character development. So that's why I went that route.
So is it more of a challenge to write a fictional story that also has some real life facts to it? Is there a technical term for that? Because I feel like I'm just describing it as a fictional story with some hint of fact in there. Is there like a technical term for that?
I'm not sure if there's a technical term, but I always see it's, and I've had to talk to a few people because there's based on true events, which is where it's a retelling of what actually happened, and then in my case where I say it's inspired by true events.
Okay.
So it's you take the events that happened and certain details and you mold that into a story where it's a fictional story, but it's got some elements of truth in it. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, especially as someone that's not from the area. For me, it's even in New Jersey, I live in one area, but if I'm writing about a different one, it might not totally be the way that area is, but you want it to serve the story. And I think the biggest challenge is I want to obviously do right by the people of Huntsville. It's the legend that most of them know. So if they're going to pick up the book, I want them to feel good about it and feel that it's handled respectfully and it's fun for them in a lot of ways. And that they appreciate the legend while also understanding that it is a story that's fictional and it's for fun.
So you mentioned that the book is the beginning of the first book of a series. Could you tell me a little bit more? Tell me about the series of books that you're going to end up writing. What's the series called? How many books do you currently have planned? Any details you want to talk about the series?
Yeah, sure. The series is called American Horrors, and it's going to be, eventually, if I can get to it, I'd love to do one from every single state in the country. So I could do up to 50 books if I get to it. So I have ideas for the next two. In fact, the next one coming out will be back in my home state of New Jersey. It's called Devil of the Pines, about the Jersey Devil, which is a very famous legend where I'm at. And that's going to come out in the second quarter of this year. And then next year, I'm going to be doing a book on a famous house in Salem related to the witch trials called The Witch House. So I have a lot of ideas. There's also some smaller legends that I may do in anthologies. But really, the urban legend catalog, I guess, along the country. There's so many stories to mine and just create. There's endless possibilities in what I can create. So I'm pretty excited to explore and learn about different places and hopefully, get the opportunity to travel. I would love to come out to Huntsville and actually visit the playground and see the actual real life location. So being able to do that is something I look forward to.
The playground itself is actually really creepy. Like the actual toy equipment there is, I'm sure you've seen pictures, but it's actually kind of a creepy playground because it literally is right next to the cemetery. So it's actually really creepy. And then, if you want to continue talking about Huntsville, we do have one of the houses in really Old Town Huntsville is an exact replica of the Salem Witch House. Like, to the T. Oh, wow. It is a perfect replica, and it's got its own slew of legends and controversies with it. So I don't know if you want to, keep talking about Huntsville. Why horror books? When you decided to become an author, what made you decide I want to write horror novels?
It's always been my thing. Back when I was 11 years old, I was always into horror movies from a very young age. I had cousins that would always watch horror movies, and they got me into it way too young. And, my mom liked them too. And I got to a point where in 1990, the Stephen King miniseries, It, starring Tim Curry, came out. And I was already an avid reader. I was very big into comic books at the time, and I would read some young adult horror novels, but I really enjoyed that miniseries. I'm like, I want to read the book. So, we were at the supermarket, I guess, or whatever. They had the mass market paperbacks, and my mom picked up the book for me, and if she knew what the content was, she probably never would have. But I read it. I'm 11 years old, and I'm reading this 1,300-page novel, and thankfully a lot of it went over my head. But it's funny, there's a joke in the horror writer community that all of us picked up a Stephen King novel when we were way too young, and it influenced us for the rest of our lives. So as I went along and I looked at screenwriting for a while, and when I finally decided to take the plunge and start publishing and writing, horror was always my thing. I read horror novels, Stephen King, Dean Koontz, some lesser known, Richard Lehman was a big one, and now I'm very big with a lot of the indie horror novels. There's some great work being done in the indie horror community, and I was very excited to see the wealth of books that are out there. So it's just something I've always been fascinated with. I think horror is a good way for us to experience our fears in a controlled environment, because we all have them, and I think we all need to kind of understand what they are, and good horror fiction helps us experience that in a way that's safe but still gives us that adrenaline, that feeling that makes it so powerful.
Have you ever done a TV interview before? Or is this
I
your
have not.
first one? Because you are like
This is my first one.
talking in the most perfect sound bites. Like, this is going to be the easiest thing to edit. And I don't do a ton of interviews because I do the weather for a living. And so I like it when I get to interview somebody that just like speaks in the most perfect sound bites. And I know my guy here is listening to this that is he's going to do most of the editing. I don't know how to work Adobe Premiere. And I know that he's going to be really excited because you're speaking in like perfect sound bites.
That's great.
I really appreciate that. One of my coworkers has been begging and pleading for me to ask the most basic of questions all week. And so this will be my final question. Do you believe in ghosts?
I would like to believe in ghosts, yes. Look, I'm skeptical of everything. That's just my nature. I will always ask questions. And I think there is enough out there that there is something. I don't know what. I don't know why there are certain things. I'm a very big believer in signs from the universe, that sometimes things happen and these opportunities show up and you have to seize them. So I do feel like there's an element of, I don't want to say mysticism, but maybe there is an element of things are presented to you from a spiritual perspective. And I think recognizing them and being able to act on them is an important thing in life, and it can really take you to some great places where, like, I feel like it's done this here for me. I do like to believe that there is something after we're gone, because otherwise it's kind of a depressing thought to think that this is it and there's nothing else. Such a short time that we're here on Earth, but the idea that there's something afterwards is very appealing to me, and so yeah, I would really love to believe that.
So, of course, I want to make sure we can get people to a place to buy the book. So tell me, everywhere anybody can buy the book.
Well, you could buy the book anywhere that books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but the absolute best place to get the books are on my website, www.jameskane.com. You can get signed copies. I sign them. I personalize them if you would like me to, give you bookmarks and stickers. All my books are there. I have 5 out now. The next American Horrors book is coming out. There are also, if you're into audiobooks, they're all available on audio through Audible and Apple Books. So yeah, there's plenty of places to get them, but the absolute best place is to get them direct from me, because I love to hear from readers. I love to personalize them. I especially have been really happy to hear from a lot of people in Huntsville that have really enjoyed the story, and I'm really happy I've done right by them. And even though I did have to take some creative liberties and I made some changes just to protect some of the local businesses and schools, because I really didn't think it was appropriate to put them in a potential negative light. But the response from people, especially in Huntsville, has been really great, and I'm really grateful for everybody. So if you want to get a book from me and you want me to personalize it, I'm more than happy to get that out to you, and I ship really fast.
Can you say the website one more time?
Yeah, www.jameskane.com.
And then I believe you're available to follow on social media, and you're very consistent with your naming on social media. What's that?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all James Kaine Writes. X is James Kaine Books, and I have a YouTube channel, Horror House Publishing, which is my publishing company.
Fantastic. Anything else you want to say about the book? Anything at all?
No, it was a lot of fun to write, and the funny thing is, it started out, it was just going to be a novella that I was going to actually offer as a free sample for people that subscribe and are interested in my other books. It was going to be a sampler of the rest of the story, but as I was writing it, it just took over, and there's a lot of personal stuff for me in there, a lot of the struggle with the kids, and it's all in the afterword. You can actually see how I incorporated everything of my own life into the book, and it kind of took on a life of its own, and when I put it out there, it turned out to be my most popular book. It reached #1 in horror on Amazon. It was a top new release the entire month it was released, and it's been doing fantastic ever since, and tons of people have read it. Over 4 million page reads on Kindle Unlimited, over 8,000 copies sold, and I'm just really grateful that everyone has picked up the book, because I really enjoy it, and I'm glad people have enjoyed it as well.
So I will happily admit to not reading the afterword, and I did that very specifically because I knew we were going to have this interview, and so I didn't want to answer my own questions. But you just mentioned that there are a lot of different personal aspects from your own life in the book. Could you talk about those?
Yeah, there's a couple things. So in the book, the main character, one of the two main characters, the two sisters, is a girl named Kylie. She's 9 years old, and she just recently recovered from kidney cancer. And the kidney cancer was a result of a little-known syndrome that's called Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, isolated hemihypertrophy. And when my son, James, was 6 months old, he was diagnosed with hemihypertrophy, which means one side of your body is a little bit larger than the rest. I mean, you really couldn't tell by looking at him unless you're really, really looking at him. But the really big problem with this syndrome is that it carries an elevated risk of kidney and liver cancers. And thankfully, we went through the protocol where it's ultrasounds every 3 months and blood work every 3 months until he was 8 years old. And luckily, he did not develop any of these tumors. But when I write, it's always a what-if scenario, and a lot of those what-if scenarios are what scares me. So in this case, it just happened to be that what if a family didn't catch that their child had this syndrome? And it's very rare and very easy to miss. I mean, my wife is very on top of things, and she just happened to notice that one of his legs looked chubbier than the other, and that sent us on this journey. And in this case, it was what if that wasn't caught, and what if she actually, or he, or whoever that child was, developed that cancer. Wilms tumor is the specific cancer that results from the syndrome. And that kind of set the dynamics of everything in motion, why the family is moving, why they need the health insurance, why the mother's so overprotective. So there was a whole lot of that in there, and that was obviously one of my biggest fears that I was able to translate to the book. And then, there's always little bits of character and things I might say, or my wife might say, or my kids might act. A lot of the schools I use, the fake names of schools, are actually schools from our area in Jersey, just because it's not accurate to Huntsville, so it's not like I'm using a real school. And one of the creepiest tidbits about the whole thing is that you see the cover there. I have very specific ideas of what my covers are. I design all my covers. I use a designer, but I come up with the concepts. And when I designed that cover, and this is including the afterword, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I told no one. I had the idea. I knew I wanted a creepy little girl on a swing, ghostly eyes, and the ghosts of the children around her. So I'm emailing my cover designer. It's a Saturday afternoon. My wife and son are out. My daughter's home with me. I end up emailing my cover designer. The minute I hit send and describe this concept to him, my daughter comes in to show me this picture she drew, and it was a picture of a little girl on a swing, ghost girl, and it was literally the exact same thing. I told her nothing. I never said it out loud. It was a little bit creepy, if I'm being honest with you, and the picture's in the book. You could see it right there, exactly what she drew. And the craziest part is the serial killer that I put in it was a guy in a raincoat,
Right.
and she actually drew a guy in like a hooded raincoat behind him, even though it's not on the cover. It didn't say anything. So it was really eerie, and it's completely. I explained the whole thing in the afterwards. So yeah. So those are a couple things that really from my life that actually kind of life imitating art, I guess, so to speak.
Is it possible for you to send me a picture of the picture?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, if you could do that whenever you get a chance here in the next week. That's all I have for you
Yeah.
question-wise. Like I told you
Okay.
when I initially emailed you, this will air in our newscast that'll immediately follow the Super Bowl. And since you could watch that newscast if you want, I'll send you links to the Fox 54 website.
Okay, perfect.
And it'll air really late your time because I think our
fine.
newscast here is not even scheduled to air until probably 10:30 or 11 o'clock that night. So
Okay.
it'll air really late there, but I'll send you a link to our website, and then obviously I'll send you a link to the completed story as well. And you can
Okay,
do with
perfect.
that whatever you want.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I would love to share it with my followers. I have like 3,000 on Facebook, a couple thousand on Instagram, and everything else. And I could show, and obviously I could promote it. I could say, hey, this story is going to be airing. Do you want? Unless you want me to keep quiet about it until after it airs.
Oh, no, that's fine. I've been talking about doing this story on my own Facebook for probably the last month. I just posted a
Yeah.
straight picture of the book. And it got a lot
cool.
of really positive comments, actually.
Oh, nice.
And then there were and you had told me that your only negative comments were the people that were actually upset about the name changes. Those were the
Yeah.
only negative comments. Everybody loved the book, but then there were a couple that are
Good.
like, well, he changed locations, and you had already told me why when we were emailing, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, it kind of makes perfect sense, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I just did a book called Black Friday that takes place. It's based off of Quaker Bridge Mall, which is the mall I went to growing up. But I didn't want to. It's still an open mall. I didn't want to do that, so I called it Oak Bridge Mall. You know, these things you do change these things. I can understand why people get upset, and I hope obviously you didn't take offense to any of the changes, or it seems like most readers didn't. I know I'm not from the area, but I did want to be respectful of the stories, and everybody feels ownership over it. So I do want to obviously make sure that I'm being respectful and I'm not treating the town, even though I do take. I mean, Stephen King was always very famous. He's like, only do enough research that it sounds real. I mean, you can't get too bogged down, or otherwise you're writing a historical book and not necessarily a fictional tale.
Right.
And I deal in fiction, so that's basically it. But I'm happy that. And there were a few that people were really really upset. And there was a minute where it was actually giving me a little bit of pause because I got a couple in a row, and I'm like, oh man, did I really screw up here? Like it kind of felt like. But then I actually put a new version of the book out with and I think the disclaimer's in the copy I sent you. There is a disclaimer up front saying, hey, listen, I understand, but I did change the names because there is some violence in the story. There's some death in the story, especially when it deals with children. I'm not going to use the real name of a school. I'm just not.